Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Hey, welcome to episode 66 of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast. My name is Josh Weesey. I'm here to be your guide through the motorsports sponsorship jungle. And I have a vision, and it's this. Regardless of if you are a supercross racer, a desert UTV racer, a backcountry snowmobile rider, drifter, ATV drag racer, whatever, my vision is that you can learn how to better market yourself and drive more value for your sponsors. I bring guests on the show to talk about their experiences, share their advice, and I have one coming up next. That is Joe Sylvester. On top of being a monster truck world record holder, a sprint car racer, and a racer of pretty much everything else, he also is the owner of High Octane Coffee. He's basically a marketing mastermind. We're going to get into an interview with him in just a minute. Before I get there, I have a few things to cover with you. So first, I'd love to get your feedback and show iTunes that we're serious with this show. So please head over to iTunes, leave a rating and review. And if you do that, I will be reading the reviews on this show. The next one I actually want to read is from my buddy Matt Thielking. He leaves this 5-star rating. Josh does a great job with these podcasts. His content and guests are extremely knowledgeable about attaining and maintaining sponsors. Their advice can be applied to any industry, not just motorsports. I would highly recommend this podcast for anyone seeking sponsorship in any industry. So Matt's given me some direct feedback as well. He actually has a hunting business, and he uses some of the advice from people on here to get sponsors for his hunting business. Pretty cool stuff. Would have never really expected that when I first started producing the show. Another thing is if you are on iTunes or Google Play or iHeartRadio, whatever, go ahead and subscribe that we don't miss upcoming guests. Also, if you want to get some insider access to the show, head over to Facebook. Check out the Sponsored Rider Club group. That group gives you some inside access to the show. And then beyond that, if you want to see some of our live experiences, head over to our Facebook page, the Sponsored Rider Club podcast page, and go ahead and give us a follow there, and you'll see some of our live videos. You can interact. We do Q&A on those shows as well, so you can actually ask questions and get responses right away. This show is brought to you by 5 awesome companies. SolderWeld, they produce game-changing metal bonding technology products. TopThePodium.com, they're experts in motorsports sponsorship. Bold Racing and Suspension, they're a family race team and custom suspension experts. Armor Cote, they make products that simplify your cleaning process. And then Addict Industries, they produce extreme safety products. I also want to give a quick shout out to some of our other program sponsors, including MBRP, HMK, Studboy Traction, and One Stop Performance. Now, the structure of this podcast is set up like a race. It begins with the qualifier, which is a basic introduction. In Heat 1, we'll discuss Joe's background. In Heat 2, we'll dive into sponsorship tactics and strategies. We kind of just blend in a main event in this one, which is where we discuss mindset. So the transition is really unclear in this one. And we'll end at the finish line. We'll get closing comments, and we'll figure out how to get a hold of Joe. Without further ado, let's hop in. Joe, why don't you fill in the gaps from that intro and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, man, I've just been a gearhead at heart and a racer and a performer since I was a kid. From a very, very young age, my favorite thing to do was to show off. And what better way to do that than motorsports and racing? I started at a very early age. I think I was about 12 years old when I got into motocross and BMX, and shortly after downhill mountain bikes. And that was really what kind of kickstarted my whole career in motorsports. And from there, went on to race just about everything else that has wheels, all the way up to now where I'm racing sprint cars.
That's cool, man. So in the pre-interview, we talked a little bit about some of the other things you've raced and driven. So let's go through those. I mean, I don't know. I probably won't be able to write them all down. I only have a note sheet that's like, half a page. So I probably won't be able to write it all down. But what's all the things that you've raced?
Oh, man, like I said, I started off in motocross, on bikes. And during my early teen years, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, I was really, really getting into it. And I was doing a little bit of racing, but not a lot. And I really liked jumping a lot. Mm-hmm. And that was really before freestyle motocross became a thing, or there was such a thing as steel ramps. So I but I was always going on the motocross track, and I would go and find the biggest jump, and I'd hit it, and then I'd just loop back around, and I'd hit it again, and I'd throw a trick. And that really became what I loved to do. And then, when I was really young, I saw my first Crusty Demons of Dirt video, and that literally changed my life.
Yeah.
I looked at it, and I was like, man, these guys are so cool. They're making a living riding dirt bikes and just doing their thing and jumping, and that's what I want to do. So I kind of set my goals from when I was a kid that I was going to be a professional motocross rider one day. And I trained for it. I worked really, really hard at it. I rode every day. BMX and mountain biking kind of became a training routine eventually for my motocross. And then sure enough, just like everybody, I had a really, really bad injury when I was 16 years old. And it was really, and it was very, very bad. I mean, internal injuries, internal bleeding, my brain was swelling and bleeding. It was pretty bad. So I got out of that. And when I was about 17 years old, I didn't really get out of it because I wanted to. I got out because my parents made me. They're like, you're never riding dirt bikes again. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'll do this again. But when I was 17, I started getting into car racing a little bit. I had a car that I did some SCCA solos with, and I did some import drag racing and stuff like that. And I ended up trading the car. I sold it and I traded it, took a partial trade on a quad. And at first I was like, I'm going to get rid of this quad. Quads are stupid. I'm a dirt bike rider. I'm going to get rid of this thing and start riding dirt bikes again. And like I said, I was about 17, 18 years old at this time, but then I started riding it and I started getting better on it. And a friend of mine out in Las Vegas was building really cool custom quads and was really into motocross and stuff, and kind of got me into it too. So I actually opened up my own shop building custom quads. And by this time I was full blown into quads. I was better on a quad than I ever was on a bike. I was doing some local races and stuff. And I had a race quad and I had a freestyle quad, and I had a little freestyle team, me and a couple buddies, and we had a steel ramp that we had built. And at the time it was the second steel ramp in the entire country built for quads. And we were traveling and doing monster truck shows and things like that, doing freestyle motocross demos on quads. And did that for a couple of years, up until I was probably about 19 or 20 years old. And still, again, with quads, I got hurt really bad. I actually broke my back a couple of times. I had a lot of bad concussions, head injuries and stuff. So I finally got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm going full throttle way too hard at this, and that's the only way I know how to do it. And it's probably going to kill me sooner than later. And so I need to make a change in my career path. So I started looking into monster trucks because I was into big lifted trucks, and I started meeting people in the monster truck industry. I forgot to mention I was racing shifter carts at the time too. I did that for pretty solid 4 years. Consistently, I was racing shifter carts, and all the way up until when I got into monster trucks. And I started working around the business a little bit in monster trucks, crewing for some teams, and got offered a driving position for a team out of Indiana. And I really didn't want to move away from my home in Ohio where my family was and stuff. And I had a really good job at the time, just working for my dad. And I kind of had my business on the side that I was doing, building quads. And, so I started looking in, and I'm like, maybe I can do this for myself. So I was able to actually scrounge up the funds to go and buy a used monster truck and a used tractor trailer, and basically put together a whole business plan around this, because that's exactly what it was a business. And I knew that that's the direction I wanted to go, and I was willing to do whatever it took to make it happen. So at 22 years old, I actually became the youngest owner driver in the sport of monster trucks to go out there and travel the country and perform. And I did that all through my 20s. Ended up becoming, by the time I was in my second year, I think it was a full-time gig. I was traveling about 45 weeks out of the year, living on the road. And it was a lot of fun, man. I had to give up kart racing because I was so busy with monster trucks. And I went literally from coast to coast and up into Canada and all the way down to Mexico, doing everything from big football stadiums down to little dirt track speedways or county fairs. And we had a lot of fun with it, and over the years, I gained a lot of wins in a truck that I had built. About my third year in the sport, I ended up building my own truck from the ground up. And over the years of never having a lot of of money behind me and always taking whatever I made at shows and putting it back into the truck, I started to learn how to build all my own parts. I did my own shocks. I built my own chassis. I did a lot of things myself as much as I could to save money,
Yeah.
And, I did that through my entire 20s, and we had a pretty good run at it. We had a lot of fun and had some success. Won at the Monster Jam World Finals in Las Vegas, won the Young Guns Shootout, did two Guinness World Record jumps. The last one I did was in 2013, where I went 237 feet, and it still stands as the current Guinness World Record today for the longest jump in a monster truck. And after all that, I wanted to shift gears a little bit and make some moves that were good for me and my racing career and just my general future of making a living, trying to race and also provide a good return on investment for my partners. I kind of felt like I hit a ceiling, like hit a pinnacle with monster trucks. Mm-hmm. And I saw the way the sport was going and the business side of things. And at the time didn't really feel like there was much left for me to do there, as far as I felt like I had gone as far as I could, with the budget that I had. So I actually got into short course off-road racing, sold all my monster truck stuff, and got into racing pro lights in the Torque series. Mm-hmm. And that very quickly turned into a full-fledged business where I had my truck. I had two customer trucks that were owned by drivers, and they basically wanted to just come to the track and drive their truck, and we prepped them at my shop in Ohio and brought them to the track, and we had this whole team. And again, it was pretty fun, but it was definitely far from a money-making venture. Very, very difficult to make a living. And then when my second year rolled around, some of my sponsors weren't at the level that I needed them to be at for me to be able to go out and make a living racing and even fund a good off-road team at a competitive level. So I decided to get out of short course racing, and I wasn't really happy with where the series was going either. So I got out of it and got into dirt track racing, which proved to be a really good move on my part. Dirt track racing is huge where I'm at. And I got into racing dirt late models my first year, and then micro sprints my second year. And then last year was my first year in a full size sprint car. So, and we've done pretty well with it. I've learned a lot. We've progressed really, really quickly. But that's basically my whole entire career there. And I don't know, would that take 10 minutes?
Yeah, that was probably about 10 minutes, man. You knocked it all out. A life just bloop, in a little nutshell there. It's cool, man. I've always shocked when I hear people on the show or just see them out in the world, just hop into different things and do it. It's incredible, motocross, yeah, there's wheels, but it's a lot different from monster trucks, which are a lot different from short course, and it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I would say we talked in the pre-interview about something that you haven't raced yet, and that's snowmobiles. So you got to add that to your list of things to do.
I'm getting too old to do that, man. I know exactly what would happen if I got on one of those things, and it would not be pretty. It's the same reason I don't ride motocross anymore, because when I get on stuff like that, there's no, as much as I want to tell myself that I'll get on it and just go have fun with my buddies and kind of screw around a little bit, I'm going to get on it and I'll be full throttle, wide open, hitting big jumps, trying to go fast. And I'm 34 years old. And my body is beat up and broken as it is. So I don't need to be getting into that stuff.
Yeah, I completely get it. I never got into the first place. For people listening, they probably know that I'm not a racer, but I like thinking about it. But yeah, I would crash very quickly in pretty much anything. No doubt. That's cool though.
Of all the crazy stuff I've done, I mean, motocross is really dangerous and crazy. Actually, the sprint cars that I'm now racing is got to be about the scariest, most intense thing I've ever done in my life. They're absolute animals. I mean, you're talking about machines that have almost 1 horsepower per pound. Yeah. They only weigh 1,200 pounds and push 1,000 horsepower almost. And these things are just deadly fast. They're meant to do one thing: go fast. Yeah. The brakes on them don't stop them. All the brakes do. You got a left front brake and you got one little brake on the rear. All they do is turn the car. They don't slow it down. They don't stop it. There's no transmission. There's no starter. It's straight horsepower right off the crankshaft to the rear end. You're either in gear or you're out of gear. And it is intense. You get 20 some guys out on the track, and the difference between first and last is a few tenths of a second.
Yeah.
And you're driving these things into the corner at 140, 130 miles an hour, and you don't lift. You drive into the corner wide open, and you turn that car and hope that your setup is on point and that car sticks.
Wow. Yeah, I would definitely crash that very, very quickly.
And when you crash them, it's ugly. It's ugly when you crash them. You usually destroy the entire car because they flip, and they don't quit flipping until they hit something hard.
Sounds fun. Sounds fun.
It's intense, man. It's intense.
I think I'm sweating over here just listening to it, but that's cool. It's cool though. It's an interesting world out there, man. It's amazing that humans came up with this stuff. It's, you know, there's some crazy cool people out there that are like, you know what, we're gonna take these cars and we're gonna make them really powerful. We're just gonna race them around a track, or we're gonna take these two-wheeled machines and just jump them and try to beat each other up.
Oh yeah, anytime you get humans around and get testosterone flowing, anything that has wheels and moves, eventually it's going to get raced.
yeah, exactly. You know, I'm a snowmobiler, and I like I said, I don't race, but it seems like whenever I go to a bar or, you know, a restaurant somewhere when I'm out on the trail, it's like if anybody even brings up the speed or the size of their motor, like it automatically escalates. If someone says, "What kind of sled you got?" you're like, "Oh shoot, should I answer this?" Because I think
Henry Ford actually had a quote that said, "Racing began shortly after the second car was invented."
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Well, cool. I mean, you shared a lot of different things that you've done. Is there anything that stands out, key experience, accomplishment, just things that you feel like the audience should hear? I mean, you already hit the Guinness World Records, which I think that's a pretty big accomplishment. But anything else that kind of sticks out?
Man, just the fact that I've kind of done everything I've wanted to do up to this point. I mean, I've gone really far with a lot of stuff, and I've got my goals of where I want to take dirt track racing and sprint car racing, but I've also got some asphalt goals too that I'm looking at, and that involves NASCAR. I'd really like to get involved in racing the NASCAR Truck Series.
Yeah.
I may actually even do a little bit of asphalt racing this year with an ARCA Truck Series, which is like a step down from the NASCAR Truck Series. Yeah. And I'm really trying to kind of cut my teeth a little bit in that too, because I try to create opportunities and take opportunities as they come to me, either from a racing standpoint and however I could best market my partners, as well as my own company, High Octane Coffee, which is a business I started a couple years ago and is really picking up steam really, really fast and really complements my racing career. So I look at things from a different perspective now. You know, I look at things that, as far as, you know, what's going to help me advance in my racing career, but what's also going to help me advance my business as well through motorsports marketing. So I've kind of got a different take on things now, a different perspective, and a new set of goals actually. But as far as stuff that sticks out in my mind, nothing tops that Guinness World Record jump. I mean, it was really crazy, and to be able to say that I did something that no other human being alive ever did, and there's only one other human being alive that ever even tried it. It's pretty cool. It's really gratifying. I may even do it again one day. You know, it was really a really gratifying accomplishment for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, when I jumped my monster truck, I only went like 220 some odd feet, so it was nowhere near.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Video games and stuff count, right? That's part of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's be honest, I haven't even played it on a video game, so I got nothing to go off of. Well, cool. Well, hey, we're going to take a quick minute to thank the sponsors of this podcast, and then we'll hop back in the heat tube.
Sounds good.
I hear it constantly from racers that a good suspension setup is absolutely critical for performance, and that's why I'm going to talk to you next about Bold Racing and suspension. Now, it's really critical to understand your suspension, and there's so many intricacies with the valving and the shims and all this crazy equipment that you need to actually, rebuild and properly set up your suspension, that it's really important if you're ready for that next level of performance to partner with an awesome suspension company. Now, Bold Racing is that company. They're not only specialists with their suspension setups, but they also partner with companies that produce amazing custom components. And on top of that, they're a family race team. They actually race themselves, so they really understand the type of beating that your vehicle and your shocks can take. So what I want you to do is give them a call and just chat with them. Talk to them about suspension. Their number is 702-506-5354. If you're not ready for a phone call, go ahead and shoot them an email, bold.racing@yahoo.com. I don't know about you, but I absolutely can't stand cleaning the mud, filth, grime, goo, garbage off my machines after I go for a ride. It's just frustrating. It takes a lot of time. That's why I'm going to talk to you about Armor Kote next. Armor Kote is designed to help prevent mud, clay, ice, and other grime from sticking to your machine. It makes the cleanup quick and easy. It makes the machine actually look fantastic, and beyond that, it smells phenomenal. I don't know how to describe it, like bubble gum or something like that. It smells great. If you want to know more about Armor Kote, visit armorcoatproducts.com, and you will see their entire product line, all the offerings. Armor Kote is also working on some new stuff. They're soon going to release a solution made for coating the helmet and visor, and also one for wheels to help prevent mud buildup for high temp areas. So make your move now. Go to armorcoatproducts.com. Make a decision that's going to allow you to shorten the amount of time that you spend cleaning so that you can increase the amount of time that you spend riding and racing. Have you ever been out on the trail or at the track or in the middle of the desert and something breaks? Well, of course you have. We've all been there. But a lot of people at that point, they reach into their trusty toolbox for the duct tape or the zip ties or wrenches to fix their machine. However, there's a feeling that you get when you realize you need more than just duct tape to fix that rock chip in your radiator. That's a horrible, horrible feeling to have. And that's why I'm going to tell you next about SolderWeld's metal bonding products, specifically alloy sol. So this product gives you a longer term fix than JB Weld, which is just going to get you back to the trailer or back to the pits. With basically the assistance of MAP gas or propane torch, you can quickly and easily repair an oil cooler, radiator, AC line, or any crack or hole in aluminum. And better yet, alloy sol flux is the only flux in industry that cleans and decontaminates the dirty and greasy surface for you. So you don't even have to worry about that part. The alloy sol rods are actually capable of a 30,000 PSI fix, and they're stronger than even the parent metal, and they're built to last the lifetime of the part. So don't let a simple radiator leak leave you out of the race or broken down in the trail. Bring along some alloy sol aluminum alloy repair rod and flux from SolderWeld. Safety is our overriding priority. I hear it all the time, but I have to ask myself, is it though? Is that the first thing we think of? Is that the first thing you think of? Over the past couple of years, we've seen the performance of production UTVs increase, somewhere around 350%. That means these machines give us a lot more opportunity to have fun and win races, but it also, unfortunately, gives us new opportunities to crash. And that's why we have partnered with Crash Addict Industries. The owner, Travis Pointer, became very accustomed to crashing early in his career. He saw it as inevitable, and he set out to make the process safer. With a passion for racing, welding, and engineering, Crash Addict Industries now produces full cage and other protection systems intentionally designed to protect you during an accident on the track. They also offer a line of human protection products through their vendors. Do this for me at this point. If you're racing with a stock cage right now, please go check out crashaddict.com and at least just see what they have to offer. Even if you choose to go with a different company, please make safety your overriding priority. I am constantly asking the guests of this podcast how they attract and retain sponsors. And on almost every single occasion, somebody gives an example of a resume. A rider or a racer resume is extremely important to your overall sponsorship pitch and proposal. And it's tough to do. It's not really the easiest thing. anybody can go through and put together a resume, so don't get me wrong there, but it's really difficult to get something that's like unique and different and stands out, and that also is something that can be put across multiple platforms. Well, that's one of the things that I want to talk to you about next, is how topthepodium.com can actually help you build a race or rider resume that can be used on multiple platforms. I'm talking like website, PDF, something you can print off that's interactive, that looks fantastic. It looks absolutely professional. Well, that's because it's made by a professional. This is the type of thing that's going to set you apart from the crowd, and that's going to position you for a strong sponsorship proposal. So what I want you to do next is go to topthepodium.com, and if you have a question, there's a little chat icon that pops up on the side of the screen when you go to topthepodium.com, and you can go ahead and type your question right there. Jeff Vanestal, he is the owner of Top the Podium. He's going to be able to respond to you directly, so check it out. All right, well, welcome everybody. Now we're in Heat 2, sponsorship, tactics, and strategies. This is the meat of the podcast, and we got Joe here, and what I want to do next is actually understand who some of your current partners and sponsors are.
Absolutely, man. I've got a lot of old ones, and I've got some new ones. So a lot of my marketing partners, I'm proud to say, have been with me for the better part of 10 years, from my monster truck days through my off-road days, now into my dirt track days. And I'm really, really proud and really thankful that these companies stand behind me. And it kind of reassures me that what I'm doing with my marketing strategies is working, because I've had companies tell me, we don't sponsor your car. We don't sponsor what you race. We sponsor you. We know that no matter what you get in, you're going to properly represent our brand, whether it's a sprint car, a monster truck, a rally car, an off-road truck. We want to be associated with Joe Sylvester because of the brand that you've created for yourself. And that is, it's really humbling, and it's really gratifying at the same time to have these companies that have been with me for so long and still believe in what I'm doing. And really the past few years have been crazy. I've jumped from one type of racing to the next, it seems like, every year. This is actually this will be my second full season in a sprint car. And for the past 4 years, that's 4 or 5 years, that's the first time that I've actually done something 2 years in a row.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
It's really cool. But I mean, AMSOIL has been with me for a few years. They've been a great partner of mine. They have such a great product. I was using their product even before I was partnered with them. So I'm a really huge believer in their product. The guy that originally started the company has such a cool story behind him, and his family upbringing and stuff like that, and how he actually created AMSOIL was truly the American dream. So any company like that, it's an absolute honor to be able to support them. FK Rod Ends, exact same story. Italian immigrant, came over from Italy, $23 in his pocket. And with the right work ethic, he was able to create an empire, making the best American-made rod ends on the market, hands down, period. And I will say that in anyone's face, that there are no rod ends on this planet that are better than FK Rod Ends, because there's no other person that's tested their rod ends like I have with a monster truck, short course off-road truck, and just absolutely abused my equipment and watched those rod ends hold up time and time again. And I actually was just at their facility a week ago, and actually for the first time got to see the process that goes into making those. And it is absolutely 100% made in America by American people, put to work by a great family-owned company. So again, for me to be able to represent a brand like that, it truly is an honor. Pyrotech safety equipment, been with me for a very long time. They do everything from the helmet on my head to the shoes on my feet, the fire suit on my back. I've been on fire. I've flipped sprint cars. I've crashed monster trucks. I've banged my head around. And I can also say I've never been injured inside a race car terribly. I've never been burned. And that's thanks to Pyrotech Racing. ISP seats. I've got an ISP seat for literally everything I race, from a monster truck to a UTV to a sprint car to a late model. Chris Van Gilder at ISP Seats is one of the most intelligent people I've ever met when it comes to motorsport safety. and what it takes to build a seat properly to protect the driver in bad crashes. And I tell people all the time, it's because of that man that I could actually even still walk because of some of the crashes that I've taken, but I've been able to walk away from because I've got a seat that's built for me and is able to allow me to crash hard and live to tell about it. So, again, really proud to say I'm associated with ISP Seats. Lincoln Welders, another really awesome American-made company that employ a ton of people in America right here in Ohio, and have stood behind me for many, many years and have allowed me to be able to create and build parts and components and things for my race vehicles that I would never even be able to afford to buy. Yeah, maybe sometimes my stuff doesn't hold up. Maybe I build something that breaks, but I re-engineer it. I build it better. I do it over again. And it's a really cool sense of pride to be able to say you built something with your own two hands using an American-made product like Lincoln Welders, fusing metal together and starting with a raw material and ending with an actual finished part to put on your race vehicle. So those are some of my biggest partners that have been with me for a long time. K&N Filters, Fragola Fuel Systems, NGKA Spark Plugs, SCS Gearbox. Really cool story with him. Another Ohio-based company, family-owned, make gearboxes and quick change gears from everything from sprint cars to monster trucks to offshore power boats. I used all their axle shafts and components for my monster trucks. And now that I'm in sprint cars, I'm still using his products for my quick change gears in the rear end of my sprint car. So another really cool American-made company. JS Tier Innovations, Quaker Steak and Lube, Moto Metal Wheels. They've been another company that stood behind me for several years. Moto Metal, KMC Wheels, the parent company that owns them has always backed me in a lot of things that I do, whether it be monster trucks, short course, dirt track racing. Really excited, to be working with them again. Bob and Chuck Eddy Automotive, a local family-owned Chrysler dealership, has also been behind me since my monster truck days. Again, really cool to welcome them on board for 2018. I've also got some new companies that are supporting me. B Tactical makes a lot of really cool custom Kydex holsters for guns. Complete Pest Solutions is a local company, does pest control for houses and commercial businesses. And Skivvy, a really cool underwear company owned by Colin Morrison, who's a freestyle motocross rider. So another cool company to be associated with, a dude that had a vision and came from racing, came from motocross, and decided to start a business and a company, that kind of fits the lifestyle that he's involved in. And as I said, obviously also my own company, High Octane Coffee Company.
Well, if people were listening to that and they're thinking like, what can I learn from this? I want you to go back and listen to that whole thing again, because I was trying to take down some notes here around what you did but how you presented that. Maybe you've become accustomed to this, but the way you presented that was you weren't just saying, here's my sponsors. You were saying, here's what the product is, what it does, why you like it, why you use it. You had a story behind almost every product. You knew the people behind the business and then the story behind the business. Like, that's phenomenal, because the ins and outs and you're passionate about them. I mean, I was like, okay, I got to go buy some of these rod ends. Like, I don't even need them. I just want to go buy some and put them somewhere.
And it's cool to be able to support companies like that support America and the American working class people too. Actually, I almost just forgot another new partner that just jumped on board for 2018, Y-Town Powder Coating. Local dude, younger guy like myself, out there hustling, trying to get his business out there, decided to invest his time and his sweat into my racing enterprise and my marketing program. So it's really cool to have him on board. And Redbeard Composites, he makes some really cool carbon fiber stuff that's super trick parts for dirt track racing. And that about sums it all up.
That's good. I really like the stories piece. You hear this when people say, how do I market myself on social media, or how do I convince people to listen to me, or it's all about the story. And you had a story behind all of those. And I think that's really phenomenal. I mean, like Lincoln Welders, for example, I learned more about Lincoln Welders just now that I didn't know before. I mean, I've heard that company a million times. I've seen their product all over the place, but I didn't know that much about them. So
they make so much stuff in house. They actually even make their own nuts and bolts in house.
oh, really? Really?
All the plastic pieces on the welders they make in house on injection molding machines. They have their own powder coating that they powder coat their welders red. So I mean, over 90% of their welders are made 100% in the United States. And it's, again, I guess that's a really cool company to be a part of. They've supported my program for a long, long time. So it's, again, I firmly believe that you have to truly believe in your partners, your sponsors. You have to believe in their product. You have to believe in their message. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to sell it. Because that's what you are. To give a company a return on their investment, you have to create them sales. You have to create awareness for their brand and make your fans and your followers want to go out and use their products. And racing has a very, very loyal demographic to racers and to the companies that support racers. So that's very, very important to use to your benefit.
So I have an interesting tangent here I want to go down. And it's around like how you have the passion for the product. Because one of the things that we have talked about on this show before, and people have messaged me about it, off air, is they're like, I don't know, maybe a company called me and they offered me free product or they offered me money and they didn't really know that much about it. And they're like, well, I don't know if this is even the best product in the market, but should I take it because I need the money, or should I take it because I need the product, or should I turn it down because I don't feel like it's the best out there? I mean, how did you get to a point where you feel like you connect with all these brands? You feel like these brands are, the best of the best. I don't even know how you get to that point.
Like I said, you start off using their product, and when you're out there jumping a monster truck 35 feet high through the air, or you're slinging a sprint car, like I said, at 140 miles an hour into a turn wide open, 2 inches off of a concrete wall, and you need to trust your suspension components and parts like things like your welds and your rod ends. You don't want to be second guessing the quality of that product. And the fact that those products do fail, the consequences are really, really bad, especially in sprint car racing. So using inferior products just because they're free isn't even an option. Even if FK Rod Ends wasn't one of my partners, I'd still be buying their product because I believe in it that much. And plus I want to live, some of these components, like I said, if they fail when you throw that car into the corner, you're going to flip all the way out to the parking lot. So, as far as when companies approach you about giving you product or something, if it don't make the car go faster or stop faster, it's not really going to help your program out. Mm-hmm. Somebody giving you some free shirts or something like that, it's really, you have to find a way to utilize it.
Yeah.
For instance, before Oakley started cutting back a lot on their four-wheeled motorsports marketing, I was partnered with them for many years. And Oakley sunglasses didn't make my truck jump higher or go faster or anything like that. But the value of the marketing they were able to do by promoting me was invaluable. Mm-hmm. Companies like that, when a company comes to you and they see you're partnered with things like Lincoln Welders, Amsoil, Oakley, the fact that you're working with reputable companies like that makes other reputable companies also want to work with you. So if somebody's going to give you something, it's not helping fund your racing or make your race car or motorcycle go faster. You have to take a different approach to looking at it and say, well, okay, what can this company possibly help me with as far as exposure on social media or something like that? And obviously you're going to provide, them with the same exposure. But again, like I said, if they're not providing to fund your racing or make your racing actually perform better, they need to bring something else to the table for you.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever been in a situation where you had a sponsor reach out to you and offer you some sort of product or some sort of, sponsorship that you turned down? Like, have you run into that?
Yeah, absolutely. I run into it all the time, especially nowadays with social media and stuff like that. And the fact that, my social media has kind of reached a point that even racing aside, I could be kind of considered an influencer for some brands, where people will kind of want to throw product at me to get some love on my social media page, on my Instagram or whatever. And if it's not something that fits my brand or my image, I turn it down. Obviously, definitely, if it's something that could potentially compete with one of my companies that I'm already partnered with, I definitely turn it down.
Yep.
But like I said, if it's a company that approaches me that doesn't fit my image and they've got 600 followers or something like that and bring absolutely no marketing, no cross promotional opportunity there, it's not worth it for me to do. This is business. You can't look at this from a personal level. This is business. Your marketing program of your racing, whether you're doing your racing as a hobby or not, once you start to get marketing partners involved, it's now become a business because it's a business to them. They've got a budget. They've got goals for where they want to see their company, and they're investing their money or their product or their time in you. So you need to take that seriously.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. We've definitely talked on the show about treating it as a business, and it's very, very true. I mean, the mindset is it's incredibly important to look at it, every transaction, every interaction, as something that is part of a business. Oh, that's
Absolutely.
good. So the thing that comes up a lot in the show that people ask about is contacting a sponsor. Whether it's your first time or if you're ready to move on to that next level, maybe you're trying to move from a discount to a paid sponsorship. How do you recommend people do that, or maybe what are some examples of how you've reached out and made that contact?
Well, it's definitely evolved over the years. Like I said, I'm 34 now, and I think I had my first sponsor when I was about 16 years old when I started racing. When I started doing nationals, racing mountain bikes, racing downhill and dual slalom and mountain cross. That was when I picked up some of my first sponsors. And back then, it was as simple as I'm going and I'm racing nationals. Okay, here's some free product. Nowadays, you got to fight tooth and nail even just to get product, or even to just get a company's attention. But if you properly use social media properly, it makes the process a little more seamless and a little bit more feasible for you to do, and it gives you something else to offer the company other than a sticker on a race car or a dirt bike or whatever. You actually have something that you can truly promote their product through to a dedicated fan base and demographic. So it has changed a lot over the years. Back then, social media wasn't even around. Yeah. So you didn't really have any of those tools to use. So you relied on your phone calls and your email updates from your races and stuff like that to promote, to get back to these companies what you did for them over the weekend. But as far as cold contacts, I'm a firm believer that they do not work, simply because it's never worked for me. I can honestly say that there's probably, I would say just about none of my partners that I've got right now came through a cold contact, whether it was a blind email or a phone call knocking on the door. It doesn't work. And it's very, very time consuming, and it's very disheartening and frustrating. And it really kind of takes the wind out of your sails. When there was times I can remember where I was trying to get 100 emails out a night. I had a strategy. I had a strategy of finding emails and contacts from marketing people at different companies and stuff like that. And I had lists of thousands of names and emails from companies, from paint companies to Coca-Cola to tire companies, anything you can imagine. If it was a company that had a marketing budget, I had them on this list. And I was sending out literally 100 emails a night, maybe getting one return email, not even any sort of deal, just a return email saying thanks, but no thanks. A lot of times they don't even email you back. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this is frustrating as hell. who are these people not get back to me? You know, I was like offended by it. You know, like I'm out there performing in front of tens of thousands of people. I'm on TV. I've got fans. I've got people getting my autograph. Who are these guys to not email me back? Who do they think they are? So, you know, and it really pulls the wind out of your sails. I think that time is much better utilized building your own brand. And you're going to spend just as much time and go just as long without sponsors and partners as you would sending out emails and trying to make phone calls and getting past the gatekeeper at a big corporate company that's going to say, oh, there's another racer looking for sponsorships, and they're not even going to give the phone to the guy. He's out to lunch today. You know, so you're much better off to utilize your social media and build your brand, build a following based around your personality, your image, and your racing, and let the sponsors come to you. Let the partners contact you because they want to be involved with you. And then also along the way through social media and actually building a platform to use, you can start contacting some of these companies, because generally, you know, the people that run the Instagram pages or the Facebook pages are at some level of marketing for these companies. So you could kind of get their attention by maybe sharing their posts, or, you know, try to steer away from contacting them directly. But if, you know, you really don't want to try to solicit your marketing efforts to a company for a product you're not even using. So for instance, if you're going to go after an AMSOIL or an FK rod ends, it's going to look a lot better to them if you're already using their product and you're believing in it. And then you say, hey, you know, check this out. We're using your product. Thank you very much for making a quality product. We really believe in you. Your product is really awesome. And then they're going to be like, wow, you know, maybe we ought to pay attention to this guy. You know, I can remember when I was doing monster trucks, I got a suspension company on board because I had an off-road shop that kind of tied in with my monster truck business. And I called the company to give them really good feedback on their product because I was so impressed with it that it fit the vehicle properly. The instructions were clear and easy to read. The packaging was great. I called them to give them good feedback, and I just so happened to get the owner of the company on the phone. And I'm telling them all this stuff, and I said, oh, you know, by the way, you know, if you ever want to get involved with something that really hits your market, your demographic, I also race monster trucks professionally, and 80% of the cars in the parking lot are trucks, and they're probably listed. So, you know, so over the next year, he's like, you know what? Put me on your email list. I'm going to keep in touch with you. I'm going to see what all it is that you're doing. And a year goes by, and he comes back and says, we want to do something with you. And, you know, it was one of the biggest partners I ever had. Very big money deal. They were a title partner on my monster truck for over 2 years. And it all started with me using their product and actually believing in their product and that it was good. So it wasn't technically a cold contact at that point. Some of my other partners I've gotten through other partners. I go to SEMA or I go to PRI, and I'm meeting with, you know, my rep from some of these companies, and I say, well, you know, I could really use some air filters, you know, on my car. I don't have anybody I'm partnered with. And like, no, you've been doing a good job for us. Let me go introduce you to the guy that's the head of marketing for K&N Air Filters. And it works just like that. You know, a formal introduction from another company that actually uses you as an ambassador for their product. It's almost like a guaranteed win. So you go to these events, you go meet face-to-face with the companies that support you, and you rub elbows with people. You give them a face to put with the name. Am I saying go to SEMA and go to PRI, or if you're into motorcycles, I don't know what's a big motorcycle show. I don't know what some of those big shows are, big power sports exhibitions. Don't go there with your backpack full of proposals and go knocking on the door of every single booth that you see. Say, can I speak to the marketing guy? They're going to be like, I think he just wants to go get a sandwich. He's not here. And it probably was. It was actually probably the guy. Person you were talking to. You know, they don't want to talk to you because, believe it or not, they're not at those shows to start giving away sponsorships. They're at those shows to make sales and secure big corporate accounts. They're not there to listen to every single guy that races a motorcycle or a car, you know, spit their best game about why they should spend money with them for a sponsorship. So if you're going to reach out to companies that are at those type of shows, try to reach out to them before the show. Say, hey, we're coming there. We really like your product. We'd like to see if we could set up a meeting with you and chat for 15 minutes and let you know how we might be able to increase some value to your marketing efforts next year. And sometimes they may say no. Sometimes they may say yes. They say, come by the booth at 12:30 after lunch. We'll give you 15 minutes and we could sit and talk. So then you have something. You have their attention. But going and doing, a cold contact at trade shows and stuff is the same as trying to make a cold contact through email or phones. So it's definitely difficult to get these companies' attention these days, but with using social media, and properly engaging on social media, they'll find you, they're looking for people to endorse their product. They will find you if you're a good fit for their company.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you brought that up. If you look at this show, for example, every time that I've tried to reach out for a sponsor in a cold contact, it went nowhere. I don't have any examples of where it worked out. But every sponsor that has been a part of the show, all of it came through them reaching out to me. And in some cases, it built over time. Bold Racing, they've been sponsoring the show for a long time now. And we originally met through basically my other business, which is Impact Fuel, which is a motorsports uses motorsports to fuel fundraiser basically for charity. And he started using that service, and it just one day he was like, hey, I'd like to actually start sponsoring the Impact Fuel. And then when the podcast started growing, he's like, maybe I'll sponsor that too. And it's incredible how that built. And then since then, we've spent time at Vegas to Reno together, and we message each other all the time. But I don't know how that happened originally. I didn't reach out to him. I didn't say, hey, I want you to be my sponsor. It didn't start that way. It all built from a relationship. And then the trade show example, I think, was phenomenal. Especially the part where you said, get a hold of them first and say, hey, I'm going to be there. I'd love to just come and see you at the booth and talk and chat or hang out. A lot of times with this show, I'm trying to find people to come on the show. So I'm trying to find businesses that I think make good decisions around sponsorship, and I want to bring representatives on the show. And so I'm constantly trying to make those connections. Well, a great example came with Stud Boy Traction, and I reached out on social media a couple times, just engaging in the post, right? Not saying, hey, sponsor me, just engaging in the post. They started following me at some point, then I made a connection with the person, and I eventually, connected with the owner, and I said, hey, are you going to be at one of the snow show in Novi, Michigan? Oh yeah, I'll be there. I was like, sweet, I'll look you up when I get there. And, that built into them. I got Ron Patton. He was the owner. He was on the show. Phenomenal show. And then I talked about, I've been running Stud Boy products on my machine for a long time, and I was just talking about how great they are, and he's like, well, what are you running this year? I was like, well, I just got a new sled, so everything's stock on it. And he's like, oh, well, we're going to fix that. And, so now he's one of my sponsors, and but it all came about in a whole different way from what I would have imagined. If you'd have told me 3 years ago how it was going to happen, I wouldn't have never said that.
Right, exactly. I mean, you go there and you meet the people and they put a face to the name. It definitely helps. One thing I left out there, before you even contact the companies to even meet with them or whatever it is, do a little research on the company first. Mm-hmm. For one, see if they even have a marketing budget, if they're big enough, and see if what they do would even benefit from the marketing services you can offer. Because it's like, it's like if you don't have anything to bring to the table, it's like going to a party without the cake. You have to go to them and actually tell them what you can do to build their brand, to give them some value. Because you can't just go there and just ask for a partnership and not even know a thing about the company. You have to kind of research them a little bit, see what they do, learn about their products or their services, and already have a formula in your head of what you're going to do to help them. Because if you don't, you're going to fail. There's no way you're going to get it. They're going to see right through you, and you don't have anything to offer them, period.
Mm-hmm.
So if you truly believe you have something to offer them, then do it. Go after it. Have an idea, have a formula, have a plan, and, before you even step foot in there and potentially waste their time, make sure you've got something to deliver for them.
Mm-hmm. This was a topic on the Dirt Life podcast, which something you've been involved with pretty heavily. And I just listened to one of the episodes the other day, and the owner of that, Jeremy Drake Cross, he was talking about social media and some of the reasons why he had started this podcast, or his podcast, and why he was doing a sponsorship series. And he said, he's like, people reach out to me, and he's like, my company's not $1 billion company. It's not $1 million company. It's not even $100,000 company.
Right, exactly. They see it because he's so good at marketing it. They think it's some huge
right,
multi-million-dollar brand.
Right. Yeah. So they reach out and say, hey, I want, can you sponsor me? Well, he's like, I'm not in a position to sponsor people. Why would you think to reach out to me? And, I've said this, I've used this example on the show before too. My other company, Impact Fuel, nowhere near ready to sponsor people. Nowhere near. But also, it's nowhere near actually producing fuel. So yeah, it's a pun, and maybe I made a poor choice in the way I named it. But like, I don't sell fuel. I don't produce fuel, and you can easily tell that by looking at my social media page, or any of my page, my website, whatever. I don't make any fuel, and people ask me all the time, "Hey, will you give me fuel for racing?" Like, what?
Perfect example of they had absolutely no idea anything about your company.
No idea.
They saw the marketing that you're doing and figured that you've got money and you're gonna go give them a donation, not a marketing partnership. You're gonna go give them a sponsorship donation. And the problem is I think 90% of racers out there really don't understand all this stuff. They don't understand the marketing aspect of it. They don't understand what companies are looking for other than a sticker on your race vehicle. That provides nothing to them. That provides no ROI whatsoever practically. If you took somebody that I sponsor and they just slap a name on their race car and that's the only thing they do, compared to somebody that I sponsor that doesn't even put my name on their race car, but they promote the crap out of me on their social media. They come do personal appearances. They do product testimonials. They do Facebook Live videos and things like that, and showing them using my product. I'm going to get a lot more out of that than the guy that did nothing but throw a sticker on his car.
And I want to call it something you said too about it's not a donation. That can hurt people in a couple ways. One, if people view it as a donation,
which a lot of them do.
Which a lot of people do. One way that can hurt is if you view it as a donation, that it's a charitable thing. Some people feel like they can't accept it. Like they feel like, oh, well, no, I can't reach out for sponsorship because, I don't deserve that. Or even if people make an offer, like, I don't know if I'm really good enough to accept that, for all this free product. I don't know. But no, it's a job. You work for that, so you need to be able to accept that. So that's one way of viewing it as a donation is bad. The other way is people say, oh, it's a donation, so like, woohoo, it's free. I don't have to do anything with it. I just get it. And that's not the case either. It's a job. You have to work for it. There's some return that they're expecting.
Right, exactly. And I mean, there's some terms you should probably familiarize yourself with too, like ROI, B2B, B2C, return on investment, business-to-business relationships, and business-to-consumer relationships. So you can provide companies with some value even by linking them together with other companies. We really, when you do certain sports like, I think snowcross, they've got like hospitality areas and stuff in the pits, just like motocross and supercross, short course off-road, NHRA drag racing. They've all got these like hospitality areas for their partners. So you create this fun, inviting atmosphere. And now obviously this is on a pretty high end level of motorsports. You create this entire experience for this person that they're going to bring their family out, they're going to bring their friends, or they're going to bring their, maybe some other business associates out for a good time. Hey, we got this guy we're partnered with in this motocross race, this supercross. So they got us some tickets and pit passes. We're going to go drink beer, eat some food, watch some racing and stuff, and get the full VIP treatment. That's very, very important. And also that creates an environment for them to also be introduced to other businesses that they could possibly link together with, as far as, using each other's product or anything along those lines. That's business to business. Business to consumer is when you're marketing the product to your fans, to your followers, to the people in the stands. Those are the consumers of the product. And ROI, return on investment, obviously, if you don't know what that is, then I don't know, maybe we need to start from the beginning. But return on investment is the return that a company, what they're receiving from you for what they are investing into you. If they're giving you $1,000, then you need to sell them over $1,000 worth of product, provide them with over $1,000 worth of return. Otherwise, they're not going to come back. And you have to have a plan of how they're going to do that. Before I even, I send out an overview, which is like, I say it's the who, what, when, and where of me and what I'm doing. And that hopefully sells the potential partner on me and what it is that I'm doing. They say, yes, we're interested. What could we do together? I say, well, let's get on a phone call or some emails. I'd like to learn a little bit more about your marketing strategies this year and what your marketing objectives and goals are for this year, so I can come up with a custom proposal for you based on your specific needs and how I can help you achieve those through my marketing platform. So that's something you need to be prepared to do as well. Because not very often are companies going to come and say, yeah, sure, we'll give you $100, just throw our name over there. They're going to say, what are you going to do for us to earn this money? It's like you said, it's a job.
Yeah. A fun job, hopefully, but it's still a job.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, and if you don't think it's fun, you should also be then questioning if you're doing the right thing. But that's just my little tidbit of advice there. Well, we've been cruising through this thing. Time is flying by. So it is now, we're at just over an hour. So it's up to you. We can, I can go through, ask one more question and just kind of do a condensed main event, or we can just close things out.
Hey, whatever you want, man. I have no problem talking about this. I'm happy to help people and share my experience. I don't claim to know it all. I don't think anybody does when it comes to this kind of stuff, but I've definitely been at it for a very, very long time because I've relied solely on marketing partners my entire life to be able to go out and do my passion, which is race and perform and entertain people. And if it wasn't for the great companies that believe in me and my marketing tactics, then I would never be able to go out and do it. I always tell people I'd be lucky to even be able to afford to race RC cars if it wasn't for my partners, let alone a 410 sprint car or field a monster truck at the highest level of competition for over a decade. So I'm very happy to share some of my experiences and techniques with people that if it inspires some people or helps some people along the way to either be reassured that what they're doing is right or that what they're doing is completely and utterly wrong and ineffective, it could possibly, I'm glad to help out a little bit. So I know you've got some other things on your punch list here, some different things about social media strategy and how you market yourself and stuff like that, or what you do to it makes your brand different from everybody else. What's going to make you stand out from everybody? And I guess that's a question everybody has to ask themselves is, what trait do I have? What trait do I possess that makes me different from the other racers that are out there on the track, the other guys that are doing this? And you can't just say your social media or anything like that, because your social media is an extension of you, and you're going to gain fans, and those fans are the customers for your partners. So those fans follow you for a certain reason. Just like NASCAR, how NASCAR got to be as big as it is because of the personalities that were involved in it, the different drivers. Fans related to Dale Earnhardt, Cale Yarborough, Jeff Gordon. They related to those guys, whether they loved them or they hated them. In some way, shape, or form, they related to them or they felt like they related to them on a personal level. They felt like they were somebody they could go hang out with, or somebody that influenced them to go out and do some cool things or progress their life in a forward direction. So, you have to kind of identify with the stronger traits that you have and capitalize on them. For me, it's a lot of it, physical fitness. I've always been into physical fitness since I was a kid. I started lifting weights when I was 12 years old. I was into bodybuilding for a little while, and then I kind of got out of that, got more into just the general fitness side of things, and just being, physically fit and healthy, a healthy lifestyle with food and exercise. And I still do a lot of cycling. I do a lot of road biking. I still mountain bike, and I try to, keep myself healthy because, one, I think it gives me something that not a lot of other guys may be doing, especially in my field of racing, that some fans can relate to. And it also helps my racing as well. So between that and then just kind of, I like being kind of generally motivating, especially with today's generation. I think there's a lot of things that I grew up doing or learning about, or values that got passed down through my family to me, that I think is missing in a lot of society today. Work ethic, working with your hands, busting up your knuckles, having grease under your fingernails, and building something that you want. Not going to the store and buying it or paying someone else to do it for you, but learning how to do it yourself and truly making something by hand. To me, there's no other greater sense of self-pride than to make something by hand and do a good job, or go out and perform with it, to where, that was one of the greatest things that I found about monster trucks was I went out there and I performed with something that I killed myself to build and fix and repair and re-engineer to make better. And I went out there and performed with it, and people enjoyed it. So to be able to do that, it was extremely exciting. So I guess that's one of the traits that I try to utilize, is my work ethic and just the general keeping your head down and working hard for what you want in life. And don't ever expect anything to be delivered on your doorstep. If you want something, go out and get it. So for me, that's what I try to do with my social media, other than promoting my partners and my racing. I try to motivate people to go out and do the things that I've done, which at this point is exactly everything that I've wanted to do.
Yeah, that's good. I do think it's critical for people to do a self-assessment, figure out what that thing is, and don't be afraid to leverage it. We've talked about that in the show before, as people might know even what their trade is, but they're scared to put it out there because somebody's going to laugh at them, or they'll make a rude comment on social media, which it's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
But put it out there. There's so many cool things that people have that other people don't know about, and that's what pulls you in.
Right, you got to be yourself. Just as you have to, when you get sponsors, you need to believe in their product and what they're doing in order to be able to properly sell it. You need to believe in yourself and what you do to properly be able to sell yourself, to gain these followers and gain these fans, to build your social media platform, to give you something to offer these marketing partners. Because if you don't, you have to have this platform to build off of, to give them that return on their investment. And that comes with building up yourself and your own brand. And don't be afraid to feel cocky or arrogant. There's a difference between being confident. There's a difference between bragging and just simply stating things that you've done. So don't get that stuff confused. Don't try to be so damn humble that you don't let people know about the things you've done or the things you've accomplished in your life. Because if you're not going to toot your own horn, nobody else is going to do it for you. So don't be afraid to get out there and let people know the things you've accomplished and the things that you've done through your own hard work and dedication. Make sure people know about it. Because like I said, nobody else is going to do that for you.
Yeah, I like that advice too, because there's people who follow you that they become genuinely invested in your success as well, and they want to see it. If something great happens, they want to see it. I know I've had a couple of younger racers on here, Casey Sims and Caden Danbury. They're both UTV racers. They're 9 and 13 years old right now. And every time they race and something goes great, like I want to be all over. I want to comment on it I've been following them for over a year now, and I just feel genuinely invested with them. I've met Caden before, and I'm like, I want him to win. So if he doesn't share when he wins, I won't even know, and then I can't engage with it. And I want to know. I want him to win. So yeah, I think it's good to share that stuff. I know I had an opportunity not so long ago. I ranked really high on iTunes with this show, and it was really exciting. And I shared it, thinking that nobody's gonna care about it. But I got more positive feedback and engagement from that than I had in most of my other posts, because I think the people who follow the show and who feel like they've invested their time listening to episodes, they were genuinely excited.
Absolutely. They're genuinely excited for you. They're genuinely happy for you to see your hard work pay off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because they feel like they were along for the ride. They know that they saw it from the ground up. They saw you putting in the time and putting in the work, and then so they felt like they're a part of it. That's the greatest thing about social media, is you can make people a part of the great things that you're doing and achieving.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. They felt like they were a part of it. I like that.
Absolutely, man.
Well, I think this was phenomenal. I normally have a full section dedicated to mindset, and I normally dive really deep into social media.
There's one answer to that entire mindset, positive.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, no matter what people say, what people do, there's nothing in this life that's worthwhile that's easy. And if it does come easy, it's not really going to be that rewarding. You'll find that the harder you work at something, the more time you dedicate to it, the greater the reward is. And it all comes from having a positive mindset. Your mind controls everything. Your mind controls your attitude. It controls your physical appearance and your ability and your energy level. And it also affects how other people view you. Your positive mindset, your positive outlook is going to inspire other people to have a positive mindset. Then their positive mindset is going to influence other people to do the same. So it's very easy. Your mindset, you need to keep it positive. Don't be dragged down by negative influences or substances of any kind, drugs, alcohol. You don't need any of that crap. If you're feeling down, roll up your sleeves, turn your phone off, crank the music up, and get to work. Do something productive with your time, and you'll be very, very amazed at how much that changes the next day. Not every day is going to be great. Learn from it, keep working hard, keep your head down, and keep on working. Whether it's, you're working on a race car or motorcycle, you're working at your business, you're working at building something, you're working at making your body healthier, you're working out, you're training. Obviously, I know there's a lot of people in power sports that listen to this show, motocross, snowcross, things like that. Those are extremely physically demanding. And one of the coolest things that I think that I've always loved about motocross is if you're a bad enough dude, if you're fast enough, you could literally show up to any motocross race with a stock dirt bike, a pickup truck, a toolbox, and a tent and a can of gasoline, and go wax everybody. If you're good enough. You can always have the better parts or the better suspension. But if you truly are talented enough and you put in the dedication and the work and the training, you can go out there and beat people that have 10 times the money you have if you put in more work than they did and you trained harder than they did. That's one of the things I think is so cool about that stuff, is you can physically work harder and train yourself and put in the time when somebody else isn't putting in the time, and you're going to beat them the next time out on track. So again, that all comes down to that positive mindset.
Yeah, I completely agree. For people who might not know this, if they've been listening to the show, for more than one, they probably view me as somewhat of a positive person. At least I hope so. But
you sound
go
like
back.
I don't know you, but you
hey,
sound
there
positive.
We go. Boom, I like it.
You're obviously taking your time to do this podcast, and you've been doing it for what you told me over a year now. And for what? For what? To help people. To help people understand better ways to be able to go out and attract sponsors and fund their racing, you know?
Mm-hmm. But if you go back, maybe it was even 3 years. Maybe it's 4 now. I don't know. You would not have said the same thing about this guy right here, because I used to call myself a realist or something like that. Definitely not positivity. I wish I could go back and like punch myself for how I used to have like an outlook on the world, and like I literally just want to beat myself for how negative I used to be, and not on purpose. Like I wasn't sitting there like I'm gonna really bring the people down right now. No, I was just negative, and it honestly, what you said about your physical appearance, your health, your relationships, everything, it can improve just by you choosing to say I'm gonna feel better about this. And it's crazy. It's wild. I even read books about it now. Like I'm literally reading a book right now about this kind of stuff, and it's so crazy.
With a positive mindset. It all starts with a positive mindset. Your body follows your mind.
Yeah, certainly. Well, we're going to kind of wrap things up. What I do want to do is give a quick shout out to the Dirt Life podcast. You have several shows that are coming out on that, and so if you want more of Joe, go check that podcast out. It's fairly new right now. High Octane is the title sponsor for that too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the Dirt Collective Dirt Life podcast, fueled by High Octane Coffee. And Dirt Collective is basically he's a videographer, a film guy that has dedicated pretty much all his resources to bettering the sport of dirt track racing and trying to get it out more in the public eye and trying to push it more into the mainstream, because it's such an awesome sport. It's so intense, and there are so many people that do it and that are so extremely dedicated to it. But it's one of those sports that kind of doesn't get the publicity that it should. And Jeremy is one of a few guys that are out there right now doing the film work and putting the stuff out on social media to really pump it out there to the masses, to get the action in front of people that are going to say, wow, how did I not know about this before? And there's a dirt track 20 minutes down the street from me that I could go watch a race at every Saturday night.
Yeah.
I'm going to go check this stuff out. This is really cool. So he's really, again, has good intentions to be pushing the sport in the right direction. And he started the podcast where he's interviewing key players in the industry and racers. And he interviewed me just about my racing and my background and everything like that. And he's like, dude, like, this is really, really good. We got a lot of good response from this. Let's do this weekly. And that turned into, let's do a weekly marketing podcast because of my experience and his experience in the field of marketing and motorsports sponsorship. So, he did the first sponsorship podcast himself, and then one just came out on, I think, Thursday last week that was with me and him. And we just recorded another one last night that I think will be dropping tonight or tomorrow, which I know this podcast me and you are doing right now is going to be like, I don't know, a few weeks from now. But you can always go back to Dirt Collective, Dirt Life podcast, and you can listen to the podcast at any time on iTunes or through his website, dirtcollective.com, or through the podcast app on your phone. So it's been a lot of fun, and I've gotten a lot of really cool positive feedback from it, and just like you said, I did it at the beginning, and I was like, I don't know, maybe this will help some people. Maybe nobody will really care at all. But it was really cool and refreshing to see how many people contacted me after that first podcast that I did with Jeremy for marketing and said, man, you really opened my eyes up to a lot of stuff. Thank you very much for sharing that stuff with me. I'm going to go about things a different way now. I've been beating my head against a wall trying to do this stuff. And now I realize that what I've been doing is the right way to go about doing it. So it was really cool to hear that from people. So I'm hoping that I could keep on continuing with that momentum and keep the ball rolling with it.
Definitely. So yeah, a lot more good info there. another different perspective. If you look at this show, I'm always promoting different perspectives on the motorsports world, whether it be snowmobiling or NASCAR or NHRA or dirt track, whatever it is. So go check that out, folks. Let me know what you think about that show. We'll make sure we keep sending traffic that way too. And then the last thing, I just want to make sure that people have the best way to connect with you. So how would you recommend they do that?
Oh, man, I'm Joe Sylvester 8 on pretty much everything. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I don't do much on Twitter. I do, most of my marketing and my engaging through Instagram. So give me a shout on there. I'm pretty much an open book. If you got questions, hit me up, shoot me a message. Joe Sylvester 8 on Instagram and Joe Sylvester 8 on Facebook. Be happy to answer people's questions, and hopefully you guys follow along with my many crazy, fast-paced lifestyle adventures. So
definitely,
it's really funny that we're doing this right now. And since we're talking through my phone, I just got a message on my personal Facebook Messenger from somebody from a racer in the dirt track community asking if I want to sponsor their car because it's the right colors of my coffee shop. That, folks, right there is a prime example of what not to do. Okay? That is exactly what I'm talking about, what you do not do. First of all, you don't message somebody on Facebook on their personal Facebook page and ask them to, quote unquote, sponsor your racing car because this is what it looks like. That's exactly the total opposite of everything me and you just talked about for the past hour. So
that is awesome. You just
literally just came through on my phone right now, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
I had something like that not that long ago where I think I was even on the show at the same time, and I had my phone up, and someone literally it was sponsor me. That was the message. It was through a DM on Instagram, sponsor me, and I was like, are you trying to get a hold of do you want to download a podcast episode? I don't really understand what you're doing here.
Yeah, you don't even know what they're talking about. I get some of that too. I mean, obviously I get it through my business, but I get people that don't even know I have a business, High Octane Coffee, and they hit me up about sponsoring them. I'm like, did I miss something here? I didn't realize racers sponsor other racers. Like, I didn't realize that was a thing. I don't know, maybe it is, but
yeah, I know it's wild, but yeah. If anything, if you take away one thing from the show, take that away at least at a minimum. Read the bio page first before you send a message. Let's just start there, baby steps. Read the bio page, and then you can make your decisions from there. But that's good stuff.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah. Well, this was awesome. I think we're gonna close things out now. At this point, I really appreciate you sharing your perspective. I love how you spoke through your sponsors and you gave a story behind that. I wanted to reiterate that point. I think that's fantastic. The ROI, the B2B, B2C, that's very important stuff. These terms they're a little weird for some people, but even if you go and just Google general finance terms, you can get a pretty good understanding of these things. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I'm going to leave you with this. Have fun and ride safe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast. Go ahead and subscribe that way you don't miss upcoming guests and episodes. Also, head over to iTunes, leave a rating and review. That would be phenomenal. The feedback is very much appreciated. And if you do have questions or guest recommendations, or you just want to email me, go ahead and shoot me a message, podcast@impactfuel.org. A special thanks for this show goes out to our sponsors, Armor Kote, SolderWeld, Bold Racing, TopThePodium.com, and Crash Addict Industries. Additionally, I want to give a quick shout out to our other program sponsors, MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, and One Stop Performance. Make sure that you're following us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I look forward to serving you again next week. Until then, have fun and ride safe.